rated defensive player that's available with that 11 and that 32nd pick, because you don't even know. And look for Ohio State players to be drafted by the Saints. Coach Payton has a great relationship with Coach Meyer up there in Ohio State. So then you have the situation with Marcus Latimer with the hamstring problem. He may drop if there's a run on quarterback. Okay, the other guy that is probably going to drop in their lap in round 6 or 7 because of the situation with Gary Conlon. You're going to have a situation, the same thing happened with Lionel Collins. I'm taking a chance on him if he's still sitting undrafted in the 6th or 7th round. I'm taking a chance because he's a first-round talent. I'm only drafting maybe at best if I can find a wide receiver that can play the role that Darren Sproles played, and maybe another wide receiver, because Coleman and Jens are not reliable yet at that level. Neither Kobe Fleener. Everything else, I'm drafting defensive players. 5 defensive players, 2 offensive. I'm looking for a wide receiver, and I'm looking for somebody that can be strongly in the passing game as that scat back that Darren Sproles left.
Okay, good. All right, Barry, and then I'm coming to you, Brendan, and then Remy. Barry, I got to ask this. Let's say Mike Williams is there, or John Ross is there at wide receiver. Do you think the Saints can take a chance on either one of those, or is it like what the professor has been saying, and coach, let's focus on the defense?
For me, well, they always could, but, logic, the whole thing about it is this. You got to look at it from this perspective, or at least I would, and I'm assuming that Mickey Loomis, Sean Payton, and Jeff Ireland, the triumvirate there that's making these picks starting tomorrow night, I'm going to assume that they're using logic in their decisions, okay, and not just infatuation or doing things on a whim. I certainly would not expect otherwise. But what's the common denominator for the Saints' failure the past 3 years? What would you say it is? Defense. Would you have to say is their problem? They're always going to have a top-rated offense with Drew Brees as the quarterback and Sean Payton as the head coach. And we've seen every single year in the Sean Payton era, regardless of what their record's been, when they don't make the playoffs or they've failed to have a winning season or a good season, you can always trace it back to the defense every single time. 2007, 2008, 2012, 2014, 2015, 2016. Every single one of those losing seasons, or I think it was 8-8 in 2008. Every single one of those 9 winning seasons, let's say, what was the common denominator? It was defense. With the exception of the 2009 season when Greg Williams came in and put together that bunch of hodgepodge free agents and made it all work and won a Super Bowl with it. With the exception of that one season, the defense has pretty much been a very unspectacular, let's say. So logic would dictate that you were going to address the defense as much as possible. If you have a mandate to win, that is, which they do. So that said, I'm going to say that when you get on the clock at 11, and the professor just alluded to it, that you want to pick the highest-rated defensive player on the board at that point. And my assumption is going to be that there's going to be possibly three guys that they'll be looking at, and actually 4 if you throw in Taco that Coach alluded to. I believe Derek Barnett could be there, possibly, because it looks like he's going to fall a little further back than first anticipated. Obviously, Taco is the guy that's going to be there that, as Coach alluded to, they're high on. David Foster appears that he's going to fall because of all the issues that he's had, and I agree with Professor. He talked about a top 5 talent possibly being available to you at 11 when you didn't expect him to be there. And then the guy that Bob alluded to, who is my personal favorite, which is Hassan Reddick. This kid, as Coach mentioned and Bob, has a meteoric rise up the draft boards. Now, I made a comparison a few weeks back and drove people insane over it, especially the older Saints fans. I compared him to Ricky Jackson, and I got a ton of blowback on it. Why are you comparing him to Ricky Jackson? Because and as I state in the article that I wrote, his style of play doesn't remind you anything of Ricky Jackson, but the impact, the impact that this kid has when you watch him on film, it's very similar to when Ricky Jackson came out of the University of Pittsburgh in 1980. Now, Kyle and Professor, you guys should remember this maybe a little bit. I know Coach will, but remember in the 1980 season for the University of Pittsburgh, there was a guy named Hugh Green. Hugh Green. Green was All-American. He was tearing stuff up. Well, while Hugh Green got all the accolades, the kid that nobody was paying attention to on the other side, on the opposite side, was a 4-3, because they played the 4-3, was a hand-in-the-dirt defensive end named Ricky Jackson out of Pahokee, Florida. And Bone Phillips, the wise old man that he was at times, picked Ricky Jackson. And when Ricky Jackson came in, he converted him from a hand-in-the-dirt, undersized, because Ricky Jackson only weighed 243 pounds at his highest weight. He took an undersized 4-3 defensive end and converted him into a 3-4 outside linebacker. But not only did Ricky line up on the edge, we wasn't calling it the edge in those days. It was just, on the out. He was just an outside linebacker. Now it's a quote-unquote edge rusher. So we've changed the terminology in the 35 years since. But he would literally take Ricky Jackson and line him up all over the field. I mean, he'd put him on the left side. He'd put him on the right side. He'd even stick him in the middle sometimes. If you remember that 1981 season when Ricky was a rookie. So that's why I make the comparison, because like Ricky Jackson, when he came into the league, this kid can play weak side. You can even stick him in the middle in an emergency situation, in a pinch. They even tried him. They even lined him up a little bit at middle linebacker and at the Senior Bowl. And then, of course, he can play a hand in the dirt coming off the edge. And as Coach alluded to and Bob alluded to, he's a former defensive back. So this guy he was a walk-on. He had to literally gain 30 pounds. Probably was eating a bunch of cheeseburgers and hot dogs to put on 30 pounds to bulk up to become a defensive end. So this guy is versatile. He blew away, the numbers at the combine. So he's an incredible athlete. To me, the term I keep using, you hear that Myles Garrett, I guess, would be the best defensive player overall. Well, to me, Hassan Reddick is what they call pound for pound the best defensive player in the draft. I just think for his size and for what he brings to the table, because of his versatility and so many things that he can do, he, to me, is the guy that the Saints should pick at 11. Now, I doubt they'll pick him just because I want them to.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Barry, let me ask you this, Barry. I mean, for such a long time, the Saints have been playing it safe, guys. Can y'all all agree? They play it safe.
Yeah.
It's always a safe choice, or the highest graded guy we have on the board, and he's a dud sometimes, right? He's not a stud. And when you look at the defense, and Bob, you mentioned this, we need somebody who's going to be a playmaker. We need somebody who's going to have to bring this team up a notch. We need some athletic players. Right now we have good serviceable, good steady players, in our linebacking core, but who will be, Ellaby is the only one that usually comes to mind, and, Robertson did good as well, but Ellaby was the one we would think, oh, man, he's making plays out there. But why is it that we don't take the chance on somebody like a Reddick? and see the potential that this kid can bring to the table. You know, Kakaha, I mean, he's those 2 knee injuries. Can he come back? Can he be effective, you know, after tearing another ACL? Or do we do the safe choice or the steady choice like a Foster? Or do we say, oh, well, Barnett is that safe choice as well? You know, Barnett, you know, he's going to be a consistent pass rusher, just an easygoing type of guy. Do we stay pat? How long are we going to keep being conservative as a team? That's my concern.
I'll just say this real quick. You know, if you're in a win now mode, because you keep hearing this term thrown out there that they're in a win now mode, then if there was ever a year to take chances, this is the year to do it.
Do it. It's not just right. The team gonna have no job.
Yeah. I mean, I get it that they want to play it safe, and obviously Sheldon Rankins last year was a prime example of playing it safe, and I'm glad they did. In hindsight, because if they would have took Shaq Lawson, they would have regretted it, because Shaq Lawson might be a bust now for Buffalo. So I'm glad that they played it safe in that instance. But it doesn't mean you got to do it every single year. And you know, look, I could be totally wrong. You know, Hassan Reddick might go out there and be a dud. He might go out there and lay an egg. I don't think he will. I think he's going to be a superstar. But that's just me. I could be wrong. Hey, look, I've swung and missed badly on projections of draft of college kids coming out in the draft. I've been horribly wrong at times, but I've also hit a few. So, and I think I'm going to be right about Hassan Reddick. But that said, the Saints. Bottom line is, and Coach alluded to this, and he's exactly right. You need a guy that's an impact player. I don't care who it is. It doesn't matter what the position is, even if it's on offense. Bottom line is, you know, if you want to get a McCaffrey, bottom line is get somebody who makes an immediate impact. Because if you're trying to win now, if your goal is to get back to the Super Bowl before Drew Brees retires, well, Drew Brees ain't got long left. I mean, he's 38, going to be 39 soon. You know, and we assume he's going to come back and play one last contract. Well, if he plays one last contract, you're going to get about maybe, you know, at least probably 2 to 3 more years. I keep saying he's probably going to play into his early 40s, kind of like Brett Favre did. Brett Favre was just shy of his 42nd birthday when he finally decided to hang it up for good. And if you add 3 years to where Drew Brees is at right now, that'd put him right about that same exact age. So, look, if you're trying to get back to the Super Bowl and help this man go out on top, you're not going to do it. Just keep, as Professor alluded to, picking the Patrick Robinsons and the Stanley Jean Baptistes of the world. You've got to start hitting on these picks.
Okay.
You've got to. And so to me, this to me is the make or break draft for them.
Okay.
If they get more misses than hits on this draft, this regime could be finally over.
Yeah, definitely. We have a caller calling in. Caller from Houston.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Is this the Saints draft special?
It is.
Okay. I am so happy it's the Saints draft special. See, this is Beulah. And I'm a Saint. I am a Saint. Thank you, Jesus. I am a Saint. It's Wednesday night. Y'all know what that is, right?
Okay.
Wednesday night, Bob.
Yeah, Beulah. We know what it is. It's prayer night.
And those sisters got on my nerves tonight, and I heard about this Saints Internet draft special, and I said, if that ain't the truth, he will do it, won't he? So I heard about this Saints draft special, and I said, oh, I got to call them because it's a draft special. I think I need some draft tonight.
Okay, all right.
But I need to find out, though. Can I come down and pick up my beer? Is it a 6-pack or a keg, and is it cold? Because I don't like my draft cold.
Okay, all right. So if you guys didn't know, that was my wife.
If you're having a draft off the tap, make sure it's got a head on it.
Maybe I need to get her a draft off the top. Maybe